Somebody throw it after
Would
me.
we expected Paul to be here? Maybe
I think that's who probably is.
Do you have an orange car?
Either way, you have a quorum.
We have a quorum. It's 5:16 on April 14th, 2026, and this is the first budget committee meeting for
Recording in progress.
Sunset Empire Park and Recreation District. Welcome. Good to see our budget.
You know what, I realized now, we didn't put it, Pledge of Allegiance on the agenda resolutions.
I'll put it on here. Yeah.
I got that.
No. See, Sue, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Certainly, I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sorry, Mark, you need a...
Is there an agenda in here?
There is.
Oh, they're on
Yep.
Front page.
No wonder I missed it.
Okay, welcome. It's good to see the budget committee back together again this year, and we appreciate your efforts to help us work through this budget process. So I'd like to start with introductions. Michael?
I'm Michael Hinn, board member.
Steve Covington, board member. Martin Parker, board member.
Bill Montero, budget committee.
Mark Truax, budget committee.
Ashley Goddard.
I'm Skylar, I'm the executive director.
I'm Jerry Hughes, I'm the director of development.
I'm Chris Collins, here, the finance manager.
And I'm Kyle Foreman, board member. Now we're going to, the chair will hold nominations for two positions, for three positions. Chairperson of the budget committee, vice chair, and secretary. So are there any nominations for, let's do chairperson first.
I nominate Bill.
We have a nomination for Bill and a second. Are there any other nominations?
I'll nominate Mark for vice chair.
Oh, don't we have to finish the?
Yeah, but that's.
Because
that makes that
no, then I can pass the gavel and have you.
Okay. I'm just rolling through it.
We have a motion and a second for Bill as chair. Are there any other nominations? All in favor? Ashley? Yes or no? Up or down?
Aye. Yes.
Yeah.
I'll abstain.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Bill, you've earned yourself a gavel.
Oh my gosh, good to touch this thing. Oh, never again.
Hey, you can
So
have
maybe-
it if you want.
No, never again. That didn't mean.
All right. So the next order of business is electing a vice chair. Do we have a nomination?
I nominate Mark.
Good with that?
Second? Anybody?
I second.
Perfect. Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We have to do
Aye.
individual.
Oh, we have to do it individually?
Yeah.
All right.
Ashley.
Ashley.
Aye. I'll vote for myself.
Aye. Aye.
I said aye.
Aye.
And Kyle. Good. All right, same with the secretary, so nominations.
I nominate Catherine.
Second.
It's a revenge nomination.
You can have mine next time.
Kyle.
Aye.
Mike. Aye. Sue.
Aye.
Catherine.
Abstain.
Mark.
Aye.
And Ashley.
You got a vote too.
Aye.
Sorry, who was the second for Catherine's nomination?
Me.
She a fan?
I'm good.
Good. All right.
Hard job.
Yes, for going on bottom.
So,
We get started with the budget
you
message.
overall have to take over. That's it.
Yeah, we are gonna start with the budget message. So, Mr. Chairperson, I think what we have planned to do is sort of allow you to go through the budget message with us. We have a presentation that will show on the board. The budget message starts on page 15, 16, 17 in there. And we have, yeah, like I said, a kind of a pretty corresponding presentation with information that Darren and I will share. I'm going to sit over in this direction, I guess, and we'll walk you through it, sort of as we've done in years past. Sorry, Ashley, Mark, I'm realizing it's not a convenient neck position for you, but you can. And the district got some snacks, so if you need a snack or a beverage, please grab one. Make yourself comfortable here. Should give me just a sec.
Do we know that Paul was not coming?
Paul had told me that he was coming. I haven't talked to him in a couple of weeks, but last time I saw him, he was aware of the date and said that he would be here.
I mean, can we make sure, somebody followed me right into the parking lot, can we make sure he didn't fall or something?
Yeah, sure.
I mean,
Go out and see.
thank you.
They let my dog out to search for him.
Oh, I am trying to coordinate one meeting, not two. We had his dog running around.
Just jumped out of my car and left.
That was actually, actually better. Not for him, but for us.
I've got a feral dog that just comes to me to eat and to sleep.
Didn't see anybody.
Thank you.
If it's the red car that's like in the corner, I think it's the car of the neighbor. It's right there, and they park there a lot. That's my experience.
Well, it wasn't that one. I
It
mean,
wasn't?
he literally, I thought, oh, I'm not the latest.
Okay.
Oh, I saw my name go by.
Yeah, we did. All right, so just some introductions here. So our goal is, of course, to remain a leader in recreation, health, and wellness for the south part of Clatsop County. That's an embedded part of our mission and what we're trying to do. The budget process, as you know, is the legal framework in terms of our financial obligations as a public entity to be transparent and have a budget committee that reviews and hopefully approves, and eventually the board will hopefully adopt the budget committee for the upcoming fiscal year, which starts on July 1. A theme that you're going to hear a few times during our presentation and our message tonight is that our upcoming budget year is going to focus on what we're calling disciplined operations, or a pretty strategic, intentional use of the resources that we have. We've invested a lot into planning and acquiring a really big, important piece of property over the last few years, as well as some other investments that we'll share more about in a few minutes. But the time is now for us to kind of be really mindful of the resources that we have. And then lastly, and again, you'll hear this a couple of times, we really appreciate the board and budget committee's service and value your insight, your leadership, your connections, both to the district and to the community. And without you, we wouldn't be able to have this meeting or execute a successful budget. So appreciate it. You all already met our 5 directors and the budget committee members that are here. We appreciate that. So we're going to start with just some highlights from this last fiscal year. I'll take the first slide, and then I think Darren and I will kind of alternate and share some of the speaking responsibilities. But we like to do this because I think it's important for the community and for the budget committee as a whole to have visibility to some of the projects that we invested in. For those of you that were around last year, and obviously, hopefully the board, you'll remember some of these investments that we have budgeted for and the important investments that they represent, both financially, but in terms of our operations and the way that we're able to serve our community more effectively. So one of the biggest things that we tackled in the last year, and there was a lot, was redesigning our website and implementing a mass communication system. We were able to go live on both of those projects in August. Well, sorry, I guess late July. And we're really pleased about the results so far of the website and the mass communication system. And a key component of doing that was finding a product that would work in synergy with our point of sale software. And so we're actually using it's one company that provides that same product for all of those services for the district. And like I said, I think it's been a really nice change for us. It's a lot easier to update. The website is much more mobile friendly, which is a big reason why we needed to make that change. The board for the last year, but even prior couple of years before that, I've worked really hard on a master planning process with some consultants that we hired, and last year had its moments of excitement and triumph for that plan to be completed, and also some moments of frustration where we sort of felt like we were hitting some snags. But I'm really happy to share that we're advancing that plan right now with the dual framework of coming out of the next couple of months with a completed strategic plan, which we're developing internally with the help of the board, especially Celeste, who's not able to be here, and a master plan which will help us guide our facility growth and improvement in facilities over the next few years. The board also is at the tail end of implementing systems development charges, and those are fees that are based on development within the service area, and that is a really important thing that we've been efforting for probably more than a decade, if you ask Mike, especially, right, Mike? It's been quite a process, but we're hoping to have those implemented July 1, and it will take quite a few months, maybe years even, before we have enough resources from those charges to use those for development and growth, but that will be something that we'll be able to tap into down the road in the future of the district. A big part of our resources were spent on updating the Sunset Recreation Center, and we can talk a little bit more about that, but the largest project that we undertook was the fire alarm project. That was a little more than a year in duration, but last probably October or November, we got the project signed off on and permitted and completed installation. We've had a couple of hiccups, but been really grateful for that investment. Also made a lot of other investments in the SRC to help us ready the building. We're still not able to open it up and use it fully, but we're getting much closer. And you'll see the effort and the investment that we made and how it has shaped the budget of the district and impacted some of our resources. And then lastly, we would be remiss to not mention that we have really great dedicated board members, each unique in their perspectives, but I don't think any of the work that we've been able to do over the last few years would have happened without the board as in their current constitution. Really thankful for their service and their leadership and the vision that they have for the district. There.
Yeah, so with regards to maintenance over the past year, it's just a kind of a series of extensive facility improvements. So some of you probably remember the issue with the fitness room behind the pool, and you know, a few hoops we had to jump through to get that back up and operational after some dry rot developed in that space. So the maintenance team was very involved in that particular process. Pool shutdown upgrades. We spent about 2 weeks last fall working on different aspects of the pool space. A lot of it in response to what feedback we're getting from users and patrons. So we had some pretty aging grout lines that needed to be cut out in the women's locker room. So took out the old grout, replaced that, put new grout in. We'll see the biggest of the projects that we focused on in there last fall. It was a failed valve in the warm water surge tank. So what we had found in looking at that is the little puck inside of the valve had snapped in half and popped out. So that wasn't functioning, and that wasn't allowing the turnover of the water to happen correctly anyway. So after a lot of research, come to find out, you really can't find those valves anymore. If you can, they're about $3,500-ish. So a little bit of work between Isaiah and I and the maintenance team. We were able to 3D print the part
and replace it that way. The rest of the valve body was in great shape, so we spent a grand total of $200 on that particular project. Actually, a little closer to $400 if you include the cost of the 3D printer. But we've been 3D printing a lot of other projects.
Is that what, I was gonna ask,
Yeah.
did you buy one, how much was the printer?
It was about $250. Yeah, it was a really good deal. We got it on sale on Amazon. We've been using it to create some other parts for some of the panic bars in the automatic opening system that we installed in there. So, but that's a whole other information technology piece. So we really effectively saved a lot of money. It was a great use of our resources and our brain power. So we have a really amazing team right now in the maintenance department. So looking ahead, though, we have ongoing roof repairs. We have a lot of roof repairs that we are constantly working on. So that's something that they're going to be working on over the upcoming year. And the SRC kitchen, we actually just got $31,000 in grant money for that project. It's a total replacement of the current walk-in refrigerator over there. One of the issues that has been developing is the weight of the condenser units and some water penetration in that roof have caused it to sag. We have plans to engage an engineer, re-support the roof, resheet, and then have somebody come out and re-roof that space. But replacing the current walk-in refrigerator with commercial two-door units in there. So we'll also open up a lot more space and have efficiency. So that's kind of where maintenance is looking for next year. So.
Do you want to do this one too?
Oh, why not? I think I can pitch this one for Isaiah. I have to tell you, Isaiah was the first one to turn in his information, and I actually had to pare it down. Sorry, Isaiah. It was about 3 pages long. So Isaiah has been very, very busy this past year, continuing to expand our security camera network, especially along the back area of the Sunset Rec Center. Nightly, we have a lot of visitors to that area back there, and typically Seaside PD likes to have footage. So the more we can have security cameras around the district, the safer we feel. We also went through and installed some new door access systems. What's that?
Sue has a question.
Oh, Sue, yeah.
I just want to know, was there a solution to put a camera out front because of the slashed tires?
Working on it. Yeah. And Isaiah could probably speak a little bit more to that later on, but yes, to answer your question, that's one of the forward-looking things is to continue developing the security camera network. We are also installing some new door access systems. And when I was talking about the 3D printer, it's the thing with those doors on the older building. They're not standard sizes, but Isaiah came up with a really keen idea of how to install in those panic bars a motorized piece that can open the door. It required a 3D part to secure it inside of that handle. So Isaiah was pretty key in getting that together. Going through and upgrading more devices to Windows 11. There's no more Windows 10 support. And some of the old computers weren't capable of running Windows 11, so going through and systematically changing those out. We have a partnership with the local school district. What that alludes to is the new softball crow's nest and baseball crow's nest out there. Required some technology in them. We went through and put up some point-to-point bridges, Wi-Fi bridges, to get some Wi-Fi out to those areas as well. And we have security cameras sitting on a shelf right now that are going to get installed over the next month once our weather improves. And then Isaiah has been diligently working on developing an internal staff portal. That's a piece, we did have it on a database where we can track purchases and submit work orders and things like that. Keep track of our certifications and for our instructors. All of that, Isaiah has worked on and created an internal staff portal now that is a landing page internally that has kind of at a glance for every employee where they're at with their certifications, what trainings they have coming up due soon. So it's a really neat resource for all of us internally. And then just continue for next year, continued infrastructure modernization. And so that goes back to your question, Sue, about adding some additional security cameras, bringing a couple more of those doors online with the card access. So we can stop handing out keys to buildings and people's cards that we can turn on and off. So it's great. Yeah.
Thank you.
I'll share a few updates on aquatics. As I think everybody in here knows, the Sunset Pool was opened in 1977, so we're coming up on, oh my gosh, 50 years of operation of the pool in 2027. That's going to be crazy. I remember when we celebrated 50 years of the district being formed in 2019. So it's been awesome. But you'll see some of the programs and stuff that have always been sort of through lines of pool operation. We really focus heavily on providing services to the kids in our community, help them learn to swim, so a lot of swim lesson participations. We serve all of the local schools, Jewel, Warrenton, and Seaside School District elementary school students. Placements, I think, refers to us helping kids sort of move throughout our swim lesson program and kind of graduate, if you will, to
66 bronze and silver.
Yeah. Well, we have two different levels of swim team. We have bronze and silver swim teams.
Oh, got it.
So I think it's just referring to the kids that elevated themselves or grew throughout our program and were ready to be a swim team participant if they so chose. We have an awesome private lesson instructor, Carolyn, who I think everybody in here is familiar with, and she continues to grow her program with an 8% increase in participations. And then a big focus of the aquatic team is to expand our partnerships clinics. They work with a lot of the first responder groups around here, lifeguards, fire departments, and things like that to provide training opportunities and programs and clinics for those folks to be able to respond in their situations. Our youth programs, I'll take this one too, Darren, since you had to do a couple. A big focus of our last year was expanding our infant toddler program. Something that we haven't been able to do for a couple of years, even though we had really dedicated and wonderful infant toddler space. We weren't really able to meet the infant need of our community, and it's the greatest need in terms of child care for that age group, so 0 to 18 months, and then the toddlers 18 months to about 3 years. Really pleased with the growth that we were able to have a few months ago in January of this year, and the progress that we've been able to make and the families that we're serving. We also have pretty darn close to full preschool enrollment, and we share that it's full. It's a little tricky just with enrollment and how it works with the enrollment of the kiddos. And then we have 16 of those kiddos in aftercare and 45 elementary school kiddos in our after-school program, and about 75 a week in our summer camp, which runs, I think, for 9 weeks every summer. We're always looking to improve our curriculum and help our staff grow as individuals and provide a higher level of service, but I'm really pleased with the staff that we have, the dedication that they make, and it's hard to be a early education, a preschool teacher. It's hard to be a provider right now. There's just a lot of dynamics with kiddos, and our staff does a great job of being responsive to the situations, the needs that the kiddos have, the families, and serving our community in that way.
Skylar, are we at capacity in this program?
So our preschool capacity is 15 in each classroom. I think right now in both classrooms we have 11. We haven't been able to find the right fit for those other 4 spots, not because there isn't demand, but it's more like the family needs aftercare, and so they can't sign up. They won't sign up with us because they need that full day service, and we don't have the spots or the space for them in aftercare. or just the ages don't work out, with what we have available and what they need. Does that make sense? But we're at capacity in all the other programs. Go ahead, Darren.
Yeah, so, in regards to the community center, last year alone, we had 17,111 facility visits. Those were not unique visitors, but returning visitors. We have a lot of folks that are coming in for the meal site program, the congregate meal site. We have a lot of other activities that take place here, knit, needle, and crochet group. We have senior bingo, so we offer a series of programming aimed at our senior population. We had 2,362 visitors via rentals in the building, whether that was birthday parties or family get-togethers of some kind. I believe that also includes like the Thanksgiving meal that we hold here in the building. 2,600 plus fitness class visits. We do 3 or 4 fitness classes here a week. A couple of them in this room. So we had 2,600 folks check in for those visits, those classes. 1,400 visits to the center for the pottery studio. The studio is available Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Anytime the building is open. I believe we have about 14 people registered in that program. So it's a great piece that we offer for the community. 4,300 senior visits, and like I said, those are specifically for the senior programming. Whether that's senior movie day, senior bingo, drop in for games. Love having those things available for that population. And then a pretty whopping 10,365 senior meals served. That's both the in-person congregate, the people who come here to have lunch, and also the home delivery meals that go out Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And those Monday, Wednesday, Friday meals are also accompanied by some frozen meals that those folks can heat up on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and then Saturday, Sunday. So on Fridays they get an extra couple meals. So wonderful program.
Are those senior meal programs, are those numbers included in the total visit numbers?
They are, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Recreation is an area where we've really, I think, expanded programs over the last few years, and an area that I love the dedication that our staff has to serving our community. We have 20 aquatic classes weekly, 26 dryland, what we call dryland fitness classes. Strong engagement, we form really strong groups in some of those class cultures to celebrate together, go out to dinner, have friendships and fellowship that extends beyond the aquatic or dryland class. We've really grown our pickleball and drop-in basketball programs, and that's a result of having a great space at the SRC to offer those programs, but also great staff in those positions to help us provide great customer service and an environment that's conducive for all levels of the sport, and just having a really great time. Continue to offer 3 different youth Start Smart sports. Those are for kiddos typically under the age of 5, but to help them get some experience in football or baseball or soccer. Basketball. No baseball. Okay. So thanks for that. So that's a really important component of helping us serve a part of our population that doesn't get served by other providers in our community. And then there's also some seasonal camps and workshops and things like that we offer in this area. I'll continue in the land of Zoe. As you all know, we have awesome events and recreation program manager, Zoe, and another impact area that she's really helped us grow on is improving and refining some of our special events. So we have 6 major annual events. One of the biggest efforts is in the Seaside Farmers Market, which will start in a couple of months, every Wednesday in the SRC parking lot. But we had 13,000 plus visitors in the 2025 market season. Turkey trot continues to grow and just blow us all away each year with its amazing participation. And if you haven't got to come to a turkey trot, we almost always have amazing weather, and we almost always have just the best time. We get to run down Broadway and run on the prom, and it's an awesome way to start Thanksgiving for those participants. And then Zoe's also done a really good job of having strong relationships with so many businesses and community partners in our community that support our special events and support people getting more involved in being healthy and being active. So it's a really great area for the district right now. Go ahead, Darren.
Sure, yeah. So our key themes for the upcoming fiscal year 2026-2027, it's a kind of a transition year for us. I think you might think back to last year was the first year in quite a number of years that we had to plan on a TRAN loan as part of our budget process. We haven't had one of those probably since I think it was before Justin Cutler started, so it would have been 2011, back right before Mary Blake left. So we've had a number of larger capital projects. I think Skylar alluded to that earlier, talking about the new fire system at the SRC. You know, that was a $238,000 investment. We had the partnership piece with the school district in Broadway Field. And so, you know, we had a $248,000 obligation with the school district to replace the turf on that field. So that combined with a couple of other things, you know, replacement of some egress doors at the SRC as part of the occupancy requirements. So, you know, after a couple of years of some really big ticket items, you know, we find ourselves, you know, trying to now navigate this piece of getting from, you know, July 1st to when tax money comes in November. And so this is, you know, what we're looking at as a transition time for us. But with a big focus on long-term sustainability, right? Making sure that we can continue operating and doing the amazing things that we have been doing for so many years. Part of that is optimization, right? Not reduction. So we're not, you know, going in and stripping out, you know, job duties or positions, things like that. More looking at the areas where we can optimize our budget. And also looking at improved systems and operations as part of that optimization.
So Darren kind of touched on some of these factors and investments that have influenced kind of the financial position of the district. I think everybody, if you were on the budget committee previously or on the board, obviously you've heard about some of these things, but I guess the one or a couple that we didn't necessarily talk about in the previous slide was some of the ways that we've tried really hard to invest in our staff over the past 5 years. We've had significant wage increases. Significant is probably not the best word. We've invested in our staff because we are in a very, very competitive job market here, and we want to retain our qualified and capable and dedicated staff as much as we possibly can. We don't offer benefits to the vast majority of our staff, so if we can keep them because we are an awesome place to work, because they're getting to work with the community, because there's a benefit to doing that, keep their wages competitive and reward them in the small intrinsic ways that employees need to feel valued. That's kind of the model that we've pursued. And then again, that strategic and master plan development that we talked about, that's been a substantial investment for the district over the last couple of years, and that I think will result in some really beautiful things and amazing things that will help guide us and lead us in a powerful way, and maybe open up some grant opportunities and other revenue sources that we haven't been able to tap into because we didn't have those documents in place. But the challenge is right now we're investing in the resources necessarily without the without the end reward of having those revenues be there for us. Just some information, if you turn to, I think it's on page 25 or so now, that's sort of where we're at in your packet if you wanted to follow along, but just for your information, permanent tax rate in the district is 92 cents per $1,000 of assessed value. That's different than real market value, and that's something that a lot of people in our community get confused. The assessed value is typically lower, much lower than the real market value of what your property might sell for. But the assessed value kind of rises with the real market value. So as the market value of homes around here increases, so too does the assessed value, just at a much lower rate typically. Our property taxes are obviously our most stable and most substantial source of revenue that the district has. We budget for about a 97.5% collection rate, which is standard for Clatsop County and for government. And then we try to generate around 20% of our revenue through our own programs and have some money budgeted for grants and sponsorships. That's always a little bit unknown. We have a terrific grant writer and support from the board. Darren's our grant writer mostly. But we never really know what kind of opportunities and things are out there. And I mentioned this just a moment ago, but I think it bears repeating is, I think with some of the planning and the investment that we've been able to do, we'll have more opportunities for grants and sponsorships as we move forward. And then that working capital number, we can touch base on that a little bit later, but it's a healthy number, but it's probably not the number that we need to move forward into the next fiscal year without that trend loan that we talked about. And so we're in a little bit of a cycle of not having a healthy enough working capital or kind of a carry forward into next year. We need to, I guess, that's something that's going to be in the long term, I think, planning of the district and of the board to get to a financial position where we don't have to have that moving forward. Go ahead, Darren.
Yeah, so the cash flow strategy, and again, we talked about the need for a tran loan just to cover that seasonal gap before the tax money comes in November. One of the things that we are proposing this year is an $800,000 tran, and that's not meaning, to be very clear about this, that doesn't mean that we are going to take out $800,000, but we think that it's a good idea to pencil it in at $800,000 to have that flexibility there without having to do a supplemental budget. So that's the kind of the reasoning for that number. And then it's a kind of a standard practice. Again, when I think back to my early years with the district, it was a very standard practice to have that tran loan to get us through that period. And some executive directors like to budget that way. So yeah.
What was it last year?
Last year we ended up borrowing $320,000. Mm-hmm.
With budgeted, I think, in the budget process for 400.
Yeah.
So some of the things that we are focusing on, I guess, for this budget cycle, but also other improvements that we're consistently striving to make, things that are going to be themes, is prioritizing our core services. We've obviously been able to expand services and had opportunities to expand services in a lot of other areas that we've turned down at this time. But even with the acquisition and the development that we've made into the SRC, we really want to focus on doing what we do and doing it really well, keeping it sustainable. We did a process a few years ago with a contractor called 110% cost recovery, and it's something that's really guided the district, at least initially for the first few years after we had done it. But it's something that we, I think, internally need to focus on a little bit more, is making sure that different programs have a cost recovery model than other programs. So some of our more general basic programs, such as swim lessons or fitness classes that are serving a wide array of people, those programs need to be at a cost recovery model that is maybe different from private swim lessons or from something in that kind of realm of recreation programming. So I think that's something that will eventually help us improve our revenue generation. Operational efficiency, we've talked a lot about that. I think as you go through the budget with us and then in your own review, I hope that you'll see, it certainly feels to us internally that we are operating as efficiently as possible and that we try really hard to maximize the resources that we have. There's I think, a great desire to do that. Diversifying our revenue, so tapping into some of those other revenue sources that we either don't have or aren't taking full advantage of right now is really important. And then once we have that strategic and also the master plan complete, aligning some of our revenue or goals or expectations with the things that are identified in that strategic plan. So you have a bunch of goals. It looks like probably maybe 20 goals that will be really influential in helping us guide our programmatic decisions and how we use the resources that we have. Right now, I want to encourage you all to turn a few pages ahead. Just a sneak peek. If you turn to the summary sheet of the general fund, it's on page 32. And if you look down on line 63 in that blue column, you'll see an unappropriated ending fund balance of $226,929. And I think that number represents a lot of efforting to really do everything we could to get that number to a really healthy perspective. When we originally started the budget process, that number looked a lot differently. And we found every possible change that we could make within kind of the framework that we've already talked about to improve our financial position and have that number be healthier. But what we wanted to do is make sure that we had at least $200,000 in that area. And so because of that, we've identified a few operational efficiencies or optimizations, as Darren said, that I think will help us. These are what staff are proposing, but obviously I want to caveat it because the budget committee could decide we're not in favor of that, or actually we like that and we want more efficiencies found. So that's part of what our discussion tonight will be. But one of the things that we've identified is an inefficiency on our Saturday hours. And what we're finding is we're really not serving a great deal of people on those Saturday hours. Typically we average in between 20 and 25 participants on those Saturday openings. We're open for 5 hours, and that excludes the number that we might get for open swim. So on those Saturdays we do have an open swim, and those can be really popular with up to maybe 40 or 50 participants, and they can be really small with 5 or 10. Just kind of depends on the time of year, what else is going on in the community that day, how the weather is, all those types of factors. But what we found in our budgeting process was that if we eliminated Saturdays except for pool rentals, we'd save the district around $25,000, which is pretty substantial. And a lot of those savings are in staffing costs. Because of the open swim and the variability of open swims, we might only need 2 to 3 lifeguards, or we could need as many as 5 or 6. And so we staff up to be prepared for those open swims, and oftentimes we don't have the numbers to necessarily justify the staff that are working. Another change that we identified that could save the district some resources. Right now, we have a practice of opening on all of the holidays except for 3. Those 3 are four: New Year's, Christmas, Thanksgiving, and the 4th of July. But when we open for President's Day or Labor Day, for example, we're paying all of our staff time and a half to be there, and oftentimes those days are amongst the slowest days, typically the slowest days of the week, and folks are often doing other things. So I have a little chart that kind of explains, but what we're proposing is a full closure of the pool on 5 of those 8 holidays. So the list on the left is the days that we would be fully closed for, and the ones in bold are the ones that would be new closures. The ones that are not in bold are the days that we are already closed for. And what we're proposing is to keep the pool and holiday schedule on these 3 holidays. And the reason why we chose or identified those 3 days is because Juneteenth and Indigenous Peoples Day are days usually that fall during the middle of the week, and they're days that the school districts out of service on Juneteenth, but they don't close on Indigenous Peoples' Day, so it's a day that our community is still pretty active and engaged. And then the day after Thanksgiving, we felt like it was important to offer one day so that our patrons didn't have a 4-day break from the pool unnecessarily. If we were going to be closed on Saturday, then we didn't want to be closed Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So doing that will save, if we do proceed with this recommendation, it will save the district, I think it's around $8,000 in staffing costs for those 5 days.
8,000 each?
No, 8,000 total for the 5 days. Go ahead, Darren.
Okay, so, yeah, so basically, to summarize all of this, it's just a transition, period. This budget kind of is how it's feeling to us as a transition, to optimization, and like Skylar hinted at, kind of refocusing our efforts, on the 110% cost recovery model. We've had a lot of staff changes over the past couple of years. So all of us that were involved in the 110% cost recovery training piece, you know, we've lost some of those folks and have new folks come on. So it's an opportunity to revisit that and retrain on that. The focus is on sustainability, keeping us sustainable into the future, and kind of getting us to a place where we're constantly looking at programs. What is it that are, you know, keeping people coming through the door? Which ones are we maybe spending a lot of money on that really aren't having a return on our investments? And so overall strengthening our systems and our facilities, and just a continued commitment to providing the best possible service to our patrons that we can.
Sorry, and I want to go, back to this slide real quick. So these are, again, just 2 proposed changes. What we found was that as a way to maximize the resources that we have and keep our financial position as healthy as possible, these were 2 changes that wouldn't necessarily impact a specific position in the district, or wouldn't minimize, we wouldn't have to, you know, do other things to perhaps find more revenue or find more funds. Excuse me, my son was calling. And then the other thing I wanted to mention, sorry, I lost my train of thought. Sue, what's your question?
I was just gonna comment that, and, you know, asking Mark as well, I don't come to the school those days because I'm told there's no class.
Yeah, we don't typically have classes those days.
Because I would show up.
Yeah.
I mean, I would show up if they were there, but I understand, you know, that we're looking at finance. I just had a conversation with a person, who's moving into the district. Oh, are you looking at opening on Sundays? And I said, you know, that's always a possibility, but.
So thank you, that helped jog my memory. So to be candid, I think it's our hope, everyone in the district that works there would like to be open Saturdays and Sundays. I think it provides a great level of service, and also the holidays. But I think what we have found is that, like Darren said, that you can call it return on investment, you can call it reduced optimization of the resources that we have. Because of the amount of patrons that are using those services on those days, we're not, we feel like this is a change that we can all, I guess, we can propose in good faith, not a forever change, but something that doesn't necessarily impact the district in a way of some of the other changes that we consider. And I think our hope would be work back to a little healthier perspective and be able to have those services in the same way that we used to have them.
And you did it during COVID.
Yeah. And the other change that we have already talked a lot about internally is if we were to move forward with this, I guess, proposed scenario, is to offering or adding an extra open swim or 2 during the week. Right now, it's an important service for our community and helps get more kids in the pool, helps them get comfortable in water, have fun, get them into our swim lesson programs eventually. So adding a couple of weeknight open swims, we used to do that a lot, but we have steered away from that for lots of different reasons, like the whole little movie that can be recorded about that, but, what I think we'd like to do is encourage, that to happen again, or have that happen again, and, hopefully transition some of those Saturday open swim participants to those weekday, opportunities.
I would just comment, did that gentleman ever reach out to you, Darren?
He left his number at the front desk for me yesterday. So,
Oh my, okay. Well, I mean, I think that's potentially, a benefit for, we had a patron saying he can't get into the pool, and he would like to more often, at least that's part of the discussion that he'll have with Darren. And so I think more open swim opportunities is real potential for him. And he's just one person that's actually spoken to me, there must be others, you know, that have just, you know, not said anything. I think that's a great idea, thank you.
So I know, there's enough, folks in here that are good at math. If you did the math and added up these two savings, we would just be under, I think, that $200,000, let me use the wrong term, carry forward. Unappropriated ending fund balance, thank you, Darren. Which is still an amount that maybe the budget committee can tolerate for staff. I think it put us in a real a concerning position of not having the resources that we might need. So we felt like it was incumbent upon us to provide some recommendations to the budget committee, things that might be understandable and that we could explain to this group as well as to the constituents that need or want our services for those programs. Oops, sorry. In closing, again, we're really thankful that the dedication of the board and the staff relationship that is strong and really healthy. There's great dynamic, there's great collaboration, there's back and forth, there's good support, and yeah, I'm really pleased with that and thankful for the board's dedication. I think this upcoming year, it offers us some opportunities to really refine and optimize our operations. And we really remain committed to providing great programs and services and facilities, and our motto is positive life activities for you, so I think we're still really absolutely committed to that. It's just this is a time of growth and a little bit of time of change for the district and the way that we are spending money and the resources that we have.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Any more questions? Let's dive into the numbers.
all right, fun part.
Everybody's tightening their belts. I mean, you're not the only district, so.
Mr. Bill, we have done this a few different ways in the past. It's kind of up to you as the chairperson how you want to proceed. What we maybe recommend or encourage is to start on page 32, and we can provide some summaries, or we can move down the budget line by line, however you feel like is the best use of your time. If we want to just spend a few moments on each page and the budget committee can ask questions, I think what you'll find, without trying to opinionate you one way or the other, is that the budget is pretty lean and understandable. There's not a lot of deviation from previous fiscal years, previous lines. There's not a lot of things that are going to be hard, I think, for you to understand or explain, but we have the three of us, and I think we'll be able to hopefully answer the questions that you may have. Great.
Thanks. Well, I think we just go page by page instead of going line by line. I think that's what we did last year. So let's continue that route unless anybody objects. So the first one is kind of a great overview of the general fund in summary and the comparison to actuals from prior years. You can see it's fairly lean.
I have a question. How did we pay off the Tran loan last year?
This is a good question, Kyle. Where it should have been listed down here in the adopted column under Tran loan repayment, it was not, but it has been.
So what line did it come out of?
You wouldn't see it in here until next year when adopted 25-26 becomes an actual 25-26.
But we budgeted for the repayment last year.
It shows it under other resources on top, isn't it?
That's where it
Right,
comes,
but we
where
didn't
it comes
budget
in,
for the repayment?
but it wasn't actually budgeted down here in the, yeah.
So where's other resources for these? I mean, is that a line?
Yeah, it's
Line
line
7.
8 on top, other tran loan.
Oh,
So that's the revenue coming in, but the tran loan repayment should have appeared, down here in line 53 in, last year's budget. Somehow it got dropped out of there.
So, we're borrowing $800,000, but it looks like the lion's share of that is gonna, improve the Sunset Recreation Center? I mean, it's a gap loan, but we're still gonna pay for stuff with that money.
It's just to cover all of the things that we normally would have been doing to conduct business between.
Right, it's 5 months worth of
Yeah, yeah.
budget.
So whatever those costs, whatever money would have been going out during that period, you know, paying staff, paying utilities, and, you know.
Well, I'm just looking at the expenses on the SRC jumped from 250 to 700 roughly. Sunset Recreation Center, 262 to 688, so, and then to 353, so.
Yeah, and again, I'm not sure what was wrapped up and what was budgeted, last year. Chris, do you recall why the,
Thought we were gonna have to do more capital than we did.
okay,
There was the thought that we had to do a firewall, which we didn't have to do it.
thank you. That
Was
was,
that,
that was
we
it.
had $300,000 firewall, but nothing
Yeah.
that we didn't need.
Yeah, that was.
Also, didn't we absorb the SRC fund into that, line 40?
In 24-25, we did. Yeah. Yeah, no, and Chris is absolutely right. So when you're looking at line 40, under adopted 25-26, and that 688, 300, that would have been budgeted lower, but it was that code-built, firewall that we thought we had to do for occupancy in the building. That as it turns out, that didn't happen.
So we anticipated, at this time last year, we anticipated that we were gonna generate $514,000.
was from the sale of,
Well, that's the sale, well, is this capital, or is this all revenue?
Let me look back. What we were thinking for Sunset Recreation Center last year. Yeah, we were, actually doing, a loan, last year we thought we had to get a separate building,
Took out
loan, to be able to do that code bill, to make that firewall happen, but as it turns out, didn't have to do that, so we didn't have to borrow that money. Not
Part of the level was
400,000.
on the same, not the whole thing.
I think it was 165
Yeah.
for the cap, some of those capital projects. Yeah.
I have a really odd question. There is something on this table that is damaging my sweater. Can I move over there, please? Well, I'm standing here doing this instead of listening.
You wanna bring them in, Clay, or do you wanna be Paul?
Well, Paul has such an amazing history, you know, with all the financial numbers. So I don't know what this is, but it's sticky.
But he doesn't ask many questions.
Maybe that was the case.
I'm gonna go home now.
So why is it that?
Well, I keep pulling this stuff off my
You
shirt.
know, 2 years ago, we budgeted $50,000 in revenue at SRC, and now we're half of that.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's, because we have renters in the building at that
Oh, the.
So we were
soil.
looking at it, at more revenue in the SRC
Okay.
line from those rentals. We start out with Northwest Senior Disability Services and then, transition to Consejo. But then Consejo, ended up moving out. So now the rental income that, we're looking at comes mainly from gym rentals, and from 2 rooms that the, Seaside School District, leases from us, one for their transition program and one for the robotics club.
So the youth program, the toddler daycare, that stuff, that's not included in this
That's
revenue?
under youth program.
That's under youth
Yeah.
program, okay.
Yeah.
Joe, you're great. You were gonna say something
Yes,
else.
that's also on page 42. Break down those numbers.
That's all the questions I have.
Great. Anybody have any questions?
I'm just noticing a decrease in revenue with many of these columns. What's the reasoning for that?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question. Can be attributed to a couple of different things. Depends on what department you're talking about. One of the things that we depend on as a budget team are the accuracy of the projected numbers from our management team. And we have a couple that, have a little pie in the sky kind of viewpoint when it comes to revenue numbers. So you'll see quite a number of these down this year because we took a more exact approach, let's say. We spent a lot more time going through every department, taking their initial numbers, and then going in and actually hand calculating, okay, well, you've got, let's say youth programs, you've got this many kids in the program. Are you sure you're gonna have 50 versus, 45? So we went through and hand calculated all of that to arrive at the numbers that we got to this year. So, yeah. Also, what we found too last year, some folks were saying, well, this is my number. I'm going to expand my program this year. I'm going to have this, right? Several months from now, right? But some of those didn't materialize, or the workshops that they put out there didn't have enough participation and didn't go. Had a number of those that didn't go because of weather. So there were a lot of contributing factors to those. So yeah.
And the working capital number is a real number?
It is a real number, as close to a positively real number as we can project at this point. Yeah.
800,000, that's the biggest trend that we've ever touched on. Last year was the biggest trend. We used to, like you said, routinely, usually it was around 200,000, but we had a better ending fund balance.
Had a better ending fund balance. Also, one of the slides that we kind of skipped on by, since 2021, we've increased our payroll by 22%. So when you consider how much money we have tied up in payroll, it's like 80% of our overall budget. 22% increase. Yeah, that does take its toll.
Yeah, and we, years and years ago, just put things in perspective, we only had like two or three full-time employees.
I made $15 an hour when I started.
Yeah.
And that was actually kind of the higher end of the pay scale too.
Yeah, anyway,
So
it's interesting.
My
Go ahead, sir.
My concern is that if you don't have enough ending fund balance to cover those 5 months between the end of the fiscal year and when the tax starts coming in, the dollars in your ending fund balance take years to accumulate. And with one tax anticipation note, you can wipe out all those savings. So you can only use you only use that money once, and once it falls off the ending fund balance, then you're stuck with trans. So I get the need. I'm not objecting to the need. What I want to know is when's it going to end?
I'm hoping the 110% cost recovery, getting back in it there and really
Well, this
adjusting those rates.
is 26, 27 budget.
Right.
In what budget are we going to have that trend down to zero?
Yeah.
I mean, is it 2030? I mean, we're going to need it next year as well. So are we making the steps to reduce our dependence on borrowing?
Good question. I think it's a great question, Kyle. I think it's probably a bigger question than we can answer, but I think your point is right. I think we're probably committed for at least 2 to 3 additional years from right now, just because of the amount that we are investing. I think there's a few, I don't know how to frame it, but a few pivot points that will help us maybe recover from the financial position that we're in faster. I think the biggest one that I can identify is the SRC opening and our ability to operate more of the SRC to generate more revenue, to attract new members, to buy into the district, buy passes with us, to use our programs and services. I think there's a great deal of space in the SRC that we haven't been able to fully activate. We haven't been able to lease out, because of those conditions that you're very familiar with.
The building code.
Yeah. I think there's a couple of other factors, and we're working on some proposals internally. I know the board asked for some feedback on how the fee review, the fee change that we made about 18 months ago is impacting our revenue, and I think it's anecdotally clear, at least right now, that it is impacting revenue pretty significantly.
Positively or
Negatively. Yeah, that we're having less participation from our out-of-district folks, and that the impact to our in-district folks hasn't been as substantial as we maybe hoped or thought. That's not a critique that we're probably ready to fully explain or understand right now, just from our perspective, and we want to make sure that we're informed before we present something back to the board. But I think those are 2 pretty important linchpins, and then I think at some point, some of the investment that we've been making in the building and in the planning processes, we're not going to have to make that significant of an investment anymore. So I still think we're kind of paying, that slide up there that talked about all the different ways we're going to have to feed some of those costs for a couple of years because of the transient cycle. So now that hopefully we won't have to do, I'm not going to say we won't have to do capital improvements in SRC, because we all know that we have to, but we'll have maybe a window where we can pause on some of those investments and really operate the building and generate some revenue ourselves. But hopefully some of the planning costs and some of the capital improvement costs, at least in that building, the need will die down a little bit for a while.
So we've been investing heavily in SRC, and that's one of the reasons why.
Yeah.
But we need to have a tax anticipation note. But I think it would be useful, speaking as a board member, maybe as a budget member too, it would be useful to have like a 5-year plan, and we know that you can't solidify those numbers now, but you can have some kind of estimate. Some of these investment costs are going to be replaced by maintenance costs, once the building's finished. So there'll still be some substantial costs, but as a board member, I think long term, I'd like to see us get out of the tax anticipation cycle, if possible.
Yeah.
Well, we can't do it this year, but
Of course, if we were tomorrow to get a certificate of occupancy, that would change everything. But, from the last, let's say we haven't been able to get the rental that we've had before. We backed off of that, and that would be, maybe $70,000 or $80,000 a year for the space that we're leasing out. And if we're able to activate programs, bring revenue up to maybe $150,000 a year, because you're certainly gonna have to spend money on mechanical, you know, over the next year or so. But if we could get a basic certificate of occupancy, you could start to turn the revenue around.
Exactly, yeah.
And at some point in the near future, we're gonna have to plan on replacing the pool. I mean, 10 years from now, it may be 15, it may be 2 years if something breaks, you know, I don't know.
Yeah.
But, I think that ought to be a star that we steer by long term.
One of the things I've asked about, just respected to the pool, we don't really know, I don't have a understanding of what replacing the pool will actually mean. You know, because we've made investments in a lot of equipment there. Do we need to replace every nut and bolt and pump and pipe in the building?
Dig a big hole and replace the whole thing?
Yeah, we don't know. I mean, maybe, we don't know what that cost would be, or what it is that we need to do, or is there an opportunity there for us to reinvent the pool?
But is that part of the master plan, is replacing the pool?
Well, we've been told, you know, we need to replace the pool, that we have an aging asset. Yet last week, I'm changing the subject, Mr. Haywood came, you know, and made an impressive argument, I thought, about the pool. He, you know, declared we have a really nice asset, which we do. Every time I go in there and look at the pool, it's serene and beautiful, and it looks perfect to me, you know. Well, but there are things like barriers to competition because of the depth of the pool and you know, different things like that, maybe even the locker rooms, but, you know, but we do need revenue. But, yeah, the pool is is the heartbeat of the district, you know, really. So, anyway, I'm setting up.
Well, to add on that, because of my history with, being part of, being in the pool for the last, and dealing with a daughter who, was part of swim team, we combined working with, Astoria, because the depth of our pool was not worthy, was not deemed, allowable for swim meets. And so we shared, everything, and I haven't even brought that forward yet, because I think that is a potential for revenue. However, I am concerned about the fact that depth of the pool is too shallow for there to be a meet, which means,
Hard to make twist turns in a shallow end.
yeah, I mean,
Not shallow.
yeah, I mean,
Not competitively. Has to do with sea level.
well, I mean,
I actually have a comment about that, sorry to interject. I just met with Bob and Carolyn yesterday, and Bob told me some information that I think is relevant. There's actually nothing in USA Swimming that says that we couldn't have a competitive meet in our pool, that it is deep enough, that the standard is shallower than what our standard, than what our pool depth is, which I think is 2 feet 9 inches. So he said that's a myth that he'd like us to start dispelling as soon as possible. There's no barriers from USA Swimming to hosting a meet at the pool. And that was in regard to the conversation that we had at the last board meeting about us starting a USA sanctioned swimming club at the district in the future. So I'm not an expert. I'm going to trust Bob and Carolyn more than my own opinion, and he seems to believe that it's kind of one of those tall tales that's just been perpetuated for, you know, decades by, you know, well-intentioned people, but that we actually can do it. It's not ideal. In most competitive environments, the depth of the shallow is a little bit deeper, but it still meets the standard. Anyways, other questions on the summary sheet?
well, I still don't understand where the trans loan went. I understand line 53, I understand line 8. So what should have been where, and does that change the bottom line?
It should have been in last year's budget, we didn't put in really, we'll pay them back, but this is, the blue is this year's.
Right. But it was factored into our projections for the,
Okay.
for the net working capital for this year. So it was projected into that number.
Well, it had to be captured in some account, or was it captured?
Oh, it would show up in actuals. It does show up in our actuals, but just not on this document because
Not
actuals
this year.
actuals for this year
Right.
aren't printed on here.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Correct.
So where did, I don't know what to do with that information. Is it,
It doesn't impact.
Yeah.
It's nothing to do with, the blue.
Yeah.
It's just an adopted budget for 25, 26.
yeah,
It's not actual. It's not.
Well, it could affect working capital if you didn't get
If
it
we had,
captured.
if we hadn't factored that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Just over 820,000.
Yeah, just a little bit of working capital.
You saved 80.
And I do like the term cost recovery though instead of profit. That's 10%, so.
yeah.
Thanks, Evan. Any more questions on the summary? Let's go to department admin. But I noticed the insurance went up, and historically, everybody's seeing at least a 12% increase in insurance, plus or minus, 12, 14. And then you have a big reduction in contract services, I assume that's IT stuff.
No, contract services, cover all the things that, we were doing with SCS last year, Klosh Group, our architects, that type of thing.
Bigger contract service.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So, yeah, that was, one area we could pare down, this year.
Any questions on admin?
Just one, Skylar, you had, FTEs of 5.75, is that the same as last year? Under
No,
admin?
we haven't added any positions in this department.
Or, and you haven't lost any?
Mhm.
Okay.
We've had transitions, but for those positions.
That's my only question, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah. Any others? All right, move on to maintenance. It's less than last year. The budget's less than the budget last year.
And the FTEs are the same?
Mhm. Yeah.
I mean, overall in the district, have the FTEs changed? Okay.
No, so,
Okay,
fundamentally,
then I'll stop asking
Yeah.
questions.
I might lose one person and the next one comes right in.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, maintenance is still the same, this year as it was last year, yeah.
So, yeah, the expenses for maintenance, about 35. Yeah, you get out of that.
Mhm.
Yeah. SRC.
Yeah.
And the capital equipment increase was a part.
Yeah, so, and just a quick side note on that one, this is one of the areas where we included, a potential, grant project. Celeste and I have been working on the grant, strategy, piece, and we identified the main pool boiler as one of those items that really needs to be, replaced. It's 16 years old. They generally last for 10, but we kind of milked this one out, and kept it really clean. But it's one of those things that won't get expensed if we don't get the grants to cover that piece, so.
Can't make it with the printer house.
I would have done it by now if I could.
I didn't say that.
And there's no contingency, you know, I always worry about maintenance, because you really don't know what's gonna break. You know, we're 18, this is gonna last for 18 months from now, you know, basically, so we have no idea what's gonna break, and I would always worry that maintenance is underfunded, because, you know, it's something important, but it's really expensive to fix.
Exactly. We put a lot of time into preventative maintenance, but like you said, yeah, you don't ever, have a way of knowing what's gonna go next, but, yeah.
Great, anything else on maintenance? Aquatic?
I had a question on the, I get that our adopted from 2026, personal services, at 9.05 FTE. You went down from, down $107,000 from last year's, adopted. You think you'll make it? Even,
Yeah, what's aquatics?
how, yeah, aquatic, sorry, isn't that where we went?
Yeah.
Okay, on line 22, it was 562 and 24.25, the actual. And we're gonna get by with 9,000 less?
Yeah, I think,
How did you make it?
I can speak to
50,000.
some of those a little bit. So part of the change is finding efficiency, looking at our current year-to-date where we're actually at. I know what's on the page in the adopted column, but comparing it to where we're actually at and where we might be able to find a little more efficiency. And then it also includes the changes that we talked about with closing on Saturdays and holiday closure. But yeah, it's a pretty lean,
I
yeah.
forgot about the mustard. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's it. Mr. Magician, how do you get a
Do
hundred?
we have anything budgeted for contingencies, you know, something that we can slush fund or?
So the appropriate place for us to budget contingencies, and it's actually on the general, summary sheet.
Yeah, I was
There
looking
wasn't
for
any
it.
on there.
But we did not. We certainly could pencil a number in there if that is what the budget committee would prefer to do. That's line 59.
59?
On the general
Okay,
summary
there it
sheet, page
There's
32.
nothing there.
The problem is if you don't have anything in contingency, and you need contingency, then it's almost like we have to come back for a special budget meeting.
I think that's what we did one year budget.
Are you thinking capital?
No.
Capital improvement was
We put the board
Board
discretion.
discretionary.
On the capital improvement.
Right. But just a general contingency is kind of, is what Kyle's saying,
Right.
is our buffer.
Skylar Celeste is in the meeting room.
Oh, great.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, you're fine. You're
Goodbye.
fine. So,
It's nice to see the cost recovery inching up a little bit.
yeah, exactly, yeah.
Anything else in aquatics? Recreation?
Hi Celeste, can you hear us?
So she got a copy of this?
She got emailed a copy by Darren before
Thank
the
you.
meeting, so.
Got it, thank you.
Yeah.
Page 36.
Thank you.
Big decrease in revenues.
I'm gonna ask, what's recreation department?
What?
What is it? What's it cover?
Oh, it covers, pottery programs, our community arts, also our dryland fitness, falls under, recreation, and any of our, sports. So,
Kind of a big revenue one in here, just because it is that drop, but we did have a $15,000 grant put in for last year, so I kind of see that kind of big drop in revenue, it's just not gonna anticipate that.
mhm.
Product enhancement was contracted programs, product enhancement.
Yeah, product enhancement, that works in tandem with the aquatics department product enhancement. We have, a relationship with 3 big insurance companies, American Specialty Health, Tivity Health, and, AARP. So, those folks that, are eligible for those programs sign up and get a pass. And then we bill the insurance companies, for their visits. And so in product enhancement, what happens with that is it's split between, it's a 60-40 split between, aquatics department and recreation for those fitness programs. Those people that have those, insurance benefit passes come to our fitness classes. So recreation gets some of that revenue, aquatics gets some of that revenue.
Is that increasing or decreasing?
That stayed pretty low. It's been a really steady, stream. Though I'd imagine we should see that going up. I keep getting the little sign-up sheets across my desk, pretty regularly. So, I know that, the AARP program's become very, very popular. It's the only one that you have to enter them into the website, their visits manually. So, I had 3 pages to enter this
Is
month.
that the Texas?
The what?
The AARP, what's that one?
No, it's AARP as in insurance, they work with insurance companies to provide a pass, basically, for the pool, for their
So,
insurance
like,
holders.
is Silver Sneakers?
It's kind of like that. Silver Sneakers is a Tivity product. Silver and Fit is an American Specialty Health product. It's the Renew One pass that is the AARP
So,
product.
I'm just curious, because I get to be under that umbrella, where my fitness is paid for. What if, we're looking at revenue, what if I had to pay? I mean, is that a wash, or?
It would go from this line.
It would just be on
to
another
this
line. It'd be from you paying it to them paying it.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. I'm just thinking that if I gave money, then maybe that would help the bottom line. And if, I'm not talking about one person, but all of us. I mean, I imagine you'd have a lot of people complain, but, the idea is to promote a better financial picture.
It's one or the other. If you paid, it would just be money in a different
RC
line.
Fitness and AQ Pass sales and stuff.
Yeah, instead of coming in under product enhancement. So, and to your question, Ashley, yeah, we renegotiate those, every couple of years. So if we have a price increase, we get to renegotiate
You'll
those.
reimburse the same membership rate, whether it's through insurance or. I mean, maybe a separate conversation, but there's an opportunity to share more about that Silver Sneakers. Big senior population in this community, and if they knew that it would be covered at such a discounted rate.
Yeah, a lot of them are signed up for sunset.
Oh, okay, yeah, and some of those you can't transfer between, you can't use it at 2 facilities at the same time. American Specialty Health, if you're locked into one facility, and you can make one change a year to another facility, so, yeah.
For the personnel, how come we're going down to 30?
Last year, we had budgeted for somebody to be like in pickleball every day for multiple hours a day, and we don't have that now. It's more of we kind of monitor via cameras, occasionally doing a walkthrough. And then that same person would be kind of cleaning a little bit, but we have a custodian that does that as well.
Hypothetically, we get occupancy tomorrow, are we gonna need that person, or would we be fine to take care of that?
No, I don't think so. Yeah. Yeah, I think if we got occupancy tomorrow, the only change you'd see is, probably moving some of the fitness classes that take place over here, to a larger space, but you'd still be utilizing the same staff, to do that. Yeah.
Any other questions about recreation?
I have a question.
Yes, Sue?
The line 13, why is the community garden expense, why is there none?
Go for it, Chris.
So the money now is any expense is coming through the foundation for that, because it's all still part of the relocation from the area behind the pool to the new ones. So as we build new ones, we're using that money first. Yeah.
Thank you.
So I assume the actuals are coming in a lot lower than what you budgeted. Great.
Yeah.
There's some skinny folk around.
Yeah, no, Darren and I were monitoring, and there was definitely more of, we are gonna need all these people, and then they weren't scheduled quite how they thought they were gonna be.
That was great.
Definitely. We went through every hour on when to work, on our scheduling software, ran numbers, and
Mapped it out.
how close are we really on this? It was,
Supply and demand analysis.
yeah.
So like, we want this money and
Any use? Let's go to community center. Cost recovery is pretty high on that.
Yeah. It is. We have two contracts under contract, line 4 contracts. We hold one with Northwest Senior Disability Services. They supplement the cost of our staff person that works the Meals on Wheels program. The other contract we have is with the city of Seaside. They help underwrite the front desk staff person, basically, that we have here as well. So that's been a standing contract since the mid-80s, I would say. So we're happy to renegotiate that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Are any of our social programs, meal programs, anything at risk because of federal government rules?
Only probably from the Northwest Senior Disability side. They get their money from the Aging Americans Act, but they also do get a little bit of revenue in from the patrons, the diners, who pay a little bit for the so I think they factor that in as part of their funding mechanism. But so far, I haven't heard any words
Or
on
not at
any of
risk
that being
of
cut.
losing? Okay.
The new generator that they're proposing, there's no cost to the district for that?
No, that's something the city's working on from their side.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
I was like,
I mean, you never know.
It's not written in stone anyway, so it's just proposed on the city side. Yeah.
Anything else?
Out.
Go on, next one, which is.
Wait a second. I just want to, I mean, it's the same idea, looking at line 5, being able to decrease program and staffing is covered because we don't have somebody in a position.
No, so that's a different, so the line 5 is a revenue one, so it's on expense. That one's always hard to judge because when we get a rental that we know the people, we know that they're gonna take care of the equipment, we don't really wanna have to charge them a fee to keep somebody here. If we can check them out a key, we know it's gonna be somebody that's been here before and will take care of it, then we don't have to have somebody on site the whole time. Cause all that would do is if that revenue goes up, then the line 16 goes up as well. So that expense increases.
If somebody rents the room and they require chaperone, do we charge them for the cost of that chaperone?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, it's,
Charge them $25 an hour.
Yeah.
That generally only applies to our after hours
Yeah.
rentals. Those occur after 5 p.m. On a Saturday, Sunday.
correct.
When we had served here, it was free because I was a board member before you were.
It also, you guys are we're providing a free service to the community. So we tend to waive those fees for community organizations that are providing a service to the community.
Right, but I locked up instead of,
Yeah. So
you know, unless,
you were the PIC.
unless I couldn't.
Yeah,
That happened.
Good thing they trusted you.
that's right.
Yeah, now Kyle can do it.
They don't trust me. I don't have a key to anything.
So special event. Looks like the farmer's market still makes you good money.
I thought, this is Zoe's, right?
Yeah.
I thought she was really adept at getting grants for some of these things. Where does that show up? Or
Most of them are in the event, so like a lot of the fall fun fest that proposed revenue, the most of that is from the sponsors.
So like the sponsors, those are assigned to each individual line item,
Yeah,
not
so-
the overall category.
Correct, because when we put out the, application for them to choose, they're choosing specific, so, like, Providence, for example, is usually really on some of the more healthy events, and
But
they
these,
want
are
just
these
those.
expenses net of those sponsorships then?
Yes. So, what I hear you saying is, so each sponsorship, so let's say somebody's sponsoring the egg hunt, you're gonna see that revenue come in under the egg hunt line 4. That's everything that's gonna be, because you may have 3 different sponsors that, you know, gold, silver, and
Bronze.
bronze, sponsor, and so that's an amalgam of all of those,
Right,
all
but,
of the
but take the
sponsorships.
egg hunt, the $3,500.
Yeah.
That's net of all sponsorships.
Yes.
So our out-of-pocket is $3,500.
No.
Yeah.
No, I think it's
Zero.
zero, because if you look on line 29, the expenses for the egg hunt,
Wait a minute,
balance out.
I'm on page 39.
I know, so-
Line.
Yeah.
Compare egg
Oh,
hunt, for
egg hunt,
example.
I'm looking
Re-
at
revenue.
Revenue.
Revenue is 3,500, expenses is 3,500.
So the 3,500 is going to be sponsorships or?
Yeah, but then there's
Okay.
others where we are able to generate a little bit of revenue. You know, farmer's market, I think the line is 28,000 for revenue and then 15,000 for expenses, so come out ahead on some of the special events, but some, especially the ones where we're not charging, are, we participate, like the Fall Fun Fest, we don't charge, it's free, or I think we asked for maybe a can donation, I can't remember how she was doing it, but sometimes the sponsors specifically are requesting, I'll cover entrance fee, or I'll provide this sponsorship because I want this event to be free to everybody, so they don't have to charge.
So I'm just curious about line 11, and I realize that you can look at 33 as well for turkey trot. Aren't we looking at more people participating, so why is it
Yeah,
lower?
it's a great question. We changed, it has to do, I think, with, the fee structure and those types of things, and as well as the sponsorship. So even though we have more bodies participating, it's not necessarily, didn't result in more, revenue for this year. And I can't remember what we did on the fee for turkey trot. Because because we have so many out-of-town participants, Zoe used the grant from the city to make it there was one cost. So even our out-of-district folks, got to pay the in-district price because of the grant that we got from the city for tourism, for turkey trot.
Oh, for tourism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this year she kept the non-resident cost at 35, but gave that discount to the district residents within accord with the fee structure. Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause like,
But
people
still,
coming in
you
from
know,
Portland aren't gonna buy in for a one-day event.
but still results in a really nice, healthy,
Yeah.
healthy net on that event.
Anything else on special events? Ready to use a break? No.
Can I just ask a really silly question? On line 24, under special events, what is a membership due that's $125?
It is the Oregon,
Festival Association.
yeah.
There's an association that's always a part of,
And go.
Events and Festival Association for Oregon. We have a membership for it.
Yeah, they just provide a lot of good trainings for them.
I guess on that kind of question, I know some training, travel meetings, and then on the maintenance as well. I'm just curious what that all entails.
Some of that, like fuel, like we have to pay if they have to go somewhere to even pick something up. If they have to utilize their own vehicle, we have to pay something to, and it's the federal rate too.
It's like a small amount invested in each budget for staff to continue in like professional development, going to conferences. If there's certifications, so like all of our fitness instructors have to have certifications or lifeguard certifications, those types of things would be under that budget.
I thought that we bought that truck so that when people, like, so maintenance can go use that truck rather than their own.
They have been, yeah, but
So there could
sometimes,
be two people going.
it doesn't work out to use the truck, for instance, like, if, I don't think we're gonna have any staff that are flying, but if they were, maybe they don't drive the truck to the airport and fly to their conference and then drive back. So it's been very helpful for the around town errands, the supply pickup, the things like that, and it's also been helpful for some of the conferences. But in the cases where we do have personal vehicles being used, with reimbursement, the federal reimbursement rate, which is 67 or
Yeah.
now.
Well, whoever spec'd out the truck, that's beautiful. I mean, it really is nice.
It really helped a lot with the garden, that's for sure.
Well, and it just got used for the mill pond opening too.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That was nice to compete in that.
We got a little money. Sorry.
All right.
But it well represents it, I think.
All right, Broadway Field. Make some profit, that's great.
Yes, not a lot of big changes on this one.
All that money, all the stuff on the turf replacement and stuff that's under the capital.
It is.
Who gets the concession revenues?
So yeah, it's part of our IGA, that, the school district and other groups that use the concession stand during, football games, baseball games, that, they have to give us 25% of the concession sales. And a lot of that goes into the janitorial costs of all the trash bags we put out there, toilet paper and other supplies, so it just kind of helps offset those costs.
But that we don't capture those revenues separately.
No, you mean the difference between what we got for football
Well, I
and
mean,
what we got for?
no, but I mean, if we got $3,000 last year in concession revenues, where does that show up?
Under.
Line
Right, yeah.
Yeah, under line 3, there's actual 24, 25 is $1,500.
But we're not booking any revenues for this year for concession?
We're on line
25%.
Well, why am I looking at two different things? Broadway
Are you looking at the
Fund
whole-
is
Oh,
different.
the Broadway
Okay.
Field Fund,
That one,
that's what I was
that's the
looking
old,
at.
that's the old sheet,
I'm
yeah.
We
sorry.
don't have any revenue at all.
Okay.
So concessions sales, okay, so we're
Yeah.
in there, okay.
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah,
that
I'm
other
just
page,
looking
we
at
have to have
looking
it
at the
one
page
more
that
year.
said Broadway Field Fund.
Yeah, Broadway Field and SRC fund will be gone next
This
year.
is the last year we
Last
see it,
year,
3
yeah.
blank years. in
3 blank
Broadway.
years.
So
Exactly.
it's the same.
Okay, anything else on Broadway Field?
I just have a simple, I presume with the district, or excuse me, the superintendent retirement and change, that won't impact us at all, correct?
We have an IGA in
Fine for
place
now.
for the time being, so.
We're working hard to manage our relationship with, the incoming superintendent in every respect. So I think that's part of what you have staff for, that work really hard on those relationships. And, but yeah, proud that we have IGA. We were, it was on Catherine's agenda for 2 or 3 years straight, getting the firm a revamped IGA, and we have it now, and it captures a lot of the things that we needed it to capture. So it's in place.
Okay, Broadway Field Fund. Pretty straightforward.
Capital improvements.
And recreation. What's the recreation center?
Free space.
Recreation center fund.
So, line
What?
44,
Free space.
loan payable, what's that loan?
Loan for the building.
Okay.
Yeah, when we purchased that.
So, we don't have a debt service fund, it's just it's just booked out of the SRC. That's the mortgage, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions on that?
Well, I just feel like the revenue ought to be higher on this.
let's do.
On the SRC, I mean, what I say here doesn't really matter, but I think we should try to approach the SRC aggressively. Recover as much as we can.
It's gonna be the, yeah.
Gotta wait for the paper.
Sorry, just to let everybody know, because we did cut it in like half. Last year we planned on having a second entrance for, staffed, and so that's why we're actually only at that 43,000 on line 15. We didn't like say, hey, like, let somebody go. That's just, we're only using that one entrance still. And even at that point, we could shift it around to where we have it. So that's why it's like literally half the expense on that.
I'm sorry, what?
Line 13 went from 81,750 to 43.
Right.
But we had planned on having two separate entrances with two separate people, but we're not planning for that right now. And if we do, it would be something with, thanks to Isaiah, where I can actually monitor one door that Haley is currently at and actually allow people in through my computer and interact with them.
Well, I
Come up and
was
get it.
actually stunned this morning that I came in to do taxes with, and the door was open.
Yeah, it's the push bar, and that's part of that 3D printer.
3D printing.
It allows us to digitally open the door and unlock it, and it auto locks it right behind them. But so that's why we don't have to really worry too much if we do end up having the two locations. We can have one person still in one, and we can monitor the other one.
So you were able to see I came in.
I didn't see it this morning.
We always know where you're at, so.
Yeah.
Well, no.
I saw you come in at the pool.
Because I still looked to make sure the door was shut.
They
But,
put that
no,
Apple
really,
tracker on there.
that I could come in, because it was raining, and I thought,
Oh, yeah.
I'm gonna give it a try, and I was stunned that I didn't have to walk in the rain and cover the tax papers, in a different way. And, I was surprised pleasantly that it was open. So you guys know you know that people were coming and going.
Yeah. It records too, so we can see anyone that goes the entire
Okay.
time. It's,
Cut it kind of close on your taxes, so.
Oh, good God.
I'm just glad you got it.
No, I have a comment for Darren when this is all done. Because,
on board.
All right, page 42.
no, it's kind of I'm shocked. And nothing that we did.
Okay, page 42, the Sunset Recreation Center, any questions on that?
To your point, I think, Catherine or whoever made the point, this is a budget that would look substantially different had we, the moment that we get occupancy and decide to activate the building, this budget is going to have to change pretty significantly. And even with the efficiencies that we found that Chris mentioned, there's still a lot of things, but I think that this is the area where we have the most growth potential for revenue is really not generating outside of basketball rentals. We don't have, and the school district, that's that rental part that you see in there, and the other revenue areas we're not tapping into right now.
What is the status of the certificate of occupancy?
Yeah, great question, Bill. We completed, about 2 months ago, we completed a testing and balancing report on the HVAC system, because we really wanted to see the actual output, I guess, that the system was having. And we got really good data for the first time, so now we know that. What we're doing right now is working with our architect to revise the submission, and we're changing some of the occupancy load in different rooms to reflect what we're actually planning on using the space for, or are using the space for. For instance, like some of the classrooms are rated to have occupancy load of around 45, but we know that we'll only have 15 preschoolers in that space plus a couple of staff, so we can lower the occupancy threshold, and that puts the testing and balancing report figures more in a healthy perspective for us to present a case to the building official that, yes, we know that the HVAC system has deficiencies, but it's adequate for the occupancy load that's in there. We did the heavy investments with the fire alarm and door work over the last year, and so I think we can also leverage that information. So it's not going to happen tomorrow, but I think we're really close, and we have some promising things that are kind of breaking our way.
So if we got this in a month, the occupancy, do we have to all come back together and review our budget?
I don't think so. I think there's a number of planning pieces that the board and staff would really need to engage on to see how we're going to use the building and the kind of the phases that we're going to activate the space in. I wish it was as simple as us getting the stamp and us opening up the building and all the doors were open and we had fitness spaces, we had pottery, we had art spaces, we had maker spaces, all that stuff was ready to go, but the reality is that it's not. The fitness space is pretty ready, it's ready to be activated, but the other spaces in the SRC are not ready, and we need to plan out how we're gonna activate those spaces, and we also need resources to activate those spaces. We don't have the resources to flip what was a science classroom into a full-blown pottery studio right now, and that's not $1 million investment, but that's an investment that we know that we will need to make to get those spaces ready.
But rental of classroom spaces and things like that are something that we could activate pretty quickly, and start developing more revenue from those rental pieces. So that's kind of
yeah. And that's the other part of it, I think, that will be really good, is right now there's still a lot of mystery and confusion about the building and how you can get in or when you can access it, who can use it. And getting that occupancy will allow us to open up the building more, get more people in the space, get our community to really start to get excited about what is there now and what can be there. And I can't tell you, we walk a lot of people through the building and everybody says it's in a lot better shape than you would have expected, or you guys have done a great job kind of revamping the space, or this cafeteria looks amazing, it'll be a really awesome event space, et cetera. So I think just having more opportunities to do that, get people in the space is really going to help us with some of those steps.
And it's got a commercial kitchen.
No place like it in town. All right, any other questions?
I'm just so curious that we have.
So this revenue number just covers like basketball, pickleball, and outside rentals?
yeah, and two school district leases.
I don't think it covers, I don't think it covers pickleball or drop-in basketball, but it covers we rent a lot of gym space to two nonprofits, PBL and Riptide, and so they use the gyms a lot. The basketball, drop-in basketball and pickleball revenue would be on recreation budget.
Okay.
Anyone? All right, nothing on the fund. Capital improvement fund.
I got a question. Where did the working capital come from?
The networking capital,
Yeah.
well, if you look back, actual 23-24.
I'm looking at 25, 26.
You're looking at 25, 26. It did not get put on there, but I'm not sure that we realized at the time, because we, when the point of that budget was being done last year, we didn't have the actuals for 24, 25. So yeah,
You didn't have the actuals for 24, 25?
When we were doing this process last year.
yeah, we did this process last year.
Yeah, but the audit came through the previous month. Why didn't you have the actuals?
Because the fiscal year wasn't.
Yeah.
No, but when
So
you were
when
doing
you're-
the budget this last year.
Well, just like, we don't have the actuals for 25, 26.
Right, but we have the actuals for 24, 25. I'm wondering why, I'm wondering why you just didn't continue the 34, 36, knowing you weren't gonna spend any money, you didn't take any more. Why that column isn't filled in?
Yeah, I think to answer your question, Kyle, I think it got missed last year.
It just fell through.
Mhm.
But it
Yeah.
didn't matter, it didn't
I mean, the
affect
whole
anything.
column was empty,
Yeah.
so would that throw things off?
Not in a substantial way.
Yeah.
So should we put that in?
Well, you know,
It's historical information, so.
It will go in next year.
exactly. So I didn't want to add anything into those columns that wasn't already there from last year. So, you know, that's, yeah. So, because that wasn't what was actually adopted, so.
Do we need this fund?
I think, at one point, we felt like it was a good fund to have because we were able to allocate a percentage, some of our resources each year before we got the SRC, and we actually used some of the funds in here, that maybe where.
For capital improvements.
For capital improvements, and, you know, it was, transparent, in a transparent way. I think it was something that was recommended maybe by previous auditors as being a really transparent way to, you know, have a savings piggy bank for
Show our
capital.
work.
Yeah.
And I'm
I'd love
fine
it if
with
we
having
had-
it or not having it.
Yeah, I'd
I'm
love
just
it
saying
if
if
we
we're
had more
not
resources.
using it, then why do we continue?
So is that just a leftover slush fund?
We don't use those words.
We do,
Just where would.
It's from,
we do not use slush fund or nest egg.
It's a fund that we don't have to appropriate it and specify where we're gonna use the capital improvement resources, but we can put part of our carry forward into that fund so that, when we have an emergency come up or when a piece of property comes on the market and we wanna buy it, like the SRC, then we're able to use some of our resources for that. Or when we have to returf Broadway Field, or when we have to do something that, the situation that you mentioned earlier about, hey, we'd really like to have a contingency to, you know, do something if something comes up, then we could use, it's a flexible savings account for capital improvement, capital acquisition.
Any other questions? There's also the taxing district spreadsheet. I'm familiar with these. Good money. So,
Yep, Form 4A.
page 46.
For your enjoyment.
So, numbers look good. And, complete financial review. So, anybody out there in the public?
Let me make sure. Did we lose Celeste? Is she still on there?
$2.4 billion in assessed value. That's all I see, but I think.
Yeah.
So,
It doesn't appear that there's anybody here or online for public comment.
my sister there. So, any more discussion?
So what do you use as a calculation for the taxes that we levy versus the taxes that we receive? Because not everybody pays their taxes.
Exactly. So I'll tell you what we did this year. We took, 5 years worth of these historically and compared, these because obviously we're using the, tax year 25-26 to project our taxes for 26,
Right.
27. So we set these aside, those years and the previous years' actuals, and compared those numbers, and then ran an average on them. They were all really, really
It's right around
close.
5%.
It's 97.5% was what we were getting.
That's
So,
pretty good.
so that was very good. So that's the number we ran with this year.
Okay.
So, yeah. Really tried to go back and look at that
What is
historical.
the growth in our assessed value over time?
Yeah, that's a really.
We can get that number. I don't know if it's found on the budget, but if you look at the summary sheet, you could see just the tax growth on line 26 of page 32. So you see the projected number.
But that's what we received, that's not what we got here.
No, but you could add, I mean, we could do the math for you, go back and add
2.5%.
2.5%.
Well, the county would have the number.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah,
right at their
yeah.
fingertips,
Yeah.
you know, but. And then, so the ones we don't receive, we collect that as past due taxes. And that, what is that, for about 50% of the past due taxes get paid every year or something?
Yeah, what are we looking at? Previously levied back taxes, just historically, in 24-25, we got 67,865, 54,366 the year before that, so it kind of.
It kind of bounces along the line, no matter what our AD is.
Yeah,
right?
exactly, so we projected out 60,000.
Gotcha.
So can I ask a really, really dumb question? I don't remember seeing a form like this in the previous budgets, am I just, don't remember?
I'm not sure that we spent a lot of time on them, I've included it in the past 3 or 4 years.
Well, it would be included in the budget approval for your board. That's probably why you went
the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Might have just been in the back, like where we
It's in the
have.
back.
Yeah.
Just supplemental.
I remember you, Darren, and I had a
mean-
pretty good conversation
Yeah.
that one year.
Big
Is
numbers.
this just a big summary?
This is what you have to send, or this is what you receive from the county.
Yeah.
This is how much taxes you're, intended to receive, what your levy is, what your assessed value
Every
is.
district.
Thankfully, we don't have to.
Every district gets one of these.
Big drop between 24 and 25 is losing the timber tax.
I mean, I'm just seeing, I'm just not familiar, and, so, like, line 5 through 10 is zeros, is that normal?
This is all something that the county does, that's their calculation, so, like, we would have nothing on that. And, yeah, I don't think it's anything.
You don't have any of those
We don't
tax
have-
levies.
Yeah.
We don't have any local option gap.
Do you understand what I'm
Or any of
saying?
those.
So like, the fire department or the school district, they have a local option levy. In fact, I think the school district one is up for,
Yeah, I mean,
so those are what would be included in that 5 through 10 area,
Bonds.
but we don't have any of those. We don't have any public
Isn't that
levies.
good?
I mean, it's a source of revenue.
I mean, we're asking people, we're not asking the community to pony up more money to have them register complaints.
That's part of it.
Or is that naive?
That was part of the master plan that we talked about. That's possible source of the future.
I think
We
it's
had gone
more,
out to one.
Yeah.
it's more complicated than that, but, I know for like the school district, that funding probably allows them to do a lot more with their operations, with their education programs and things that their general fund budget won't cover, wouldn't be covered without that levy, assuming it's the same for the other
Okay.
special districts or local governments to do. So it is something that Park and Rec districts can do. We've never really had too many discussions about it. That might be something that we would consider in the future because it's, a shorter term, usually for 5 or 10 years, and it's usually not for as significant amount as like $100 million bond or a $40 million bond or something like that. It's usually for helping you with operating funds to get the SRC activated, for example, or to buy a new fire truck or something like that.
That's what, I mean, I figured we're minding our P's and Q's with, and not asking people to give us more money because in 5 to 10 years, we're gonna be looking at the option, to consider saying, hey, you haven't heard from us for a long time, we would like to get a new pool.
Yeah.
Give you a new
You have
pool.
to go to the voters. It's probably not a good time to go.
Yeah. You can, there is room for a local option, because I know there's the formula and
Yeah,
it's.
there's a
between-
little bit of room, not much, so.
Okay.
Yeah. The one thing that I guess helps us is that our boundaries are unique. I mean, they're similar to the school district, but we don't have everything that the school district has, and we're a little bigger than the city boundaries, so what is that called, the,
Compression.
compression? Yeah.
That's where you gotta figure out between the assessed value and measure 5 and what's left in there.
Measure
Good luck.
50 and measure 50. Yeah, Portland's trying to figure that out right now in downtown.
Wow. Any more discussion?
I just have one more question ahead in my notes. Sorry. We adopted a contract to put charging stations electric vehicle charging stations at the SRC by the dog park. Is there any financial commitment that we're gonna have to, I mean, I'm guessing we're gonna have to put in lights and a camera or whatever.
Yeah, on our end, we budgeted, and that was part of the SRC project loan that we took out, is to allocate some resources for that, lights and, an additional camera that would capture
Security.
activity in that area. I think, I guess I'm just speaking for myself, I didn't run this by Darren and Chris or the board, but I have some amount of confidence that the project will continue, but I haven't had the full engagement from the contractor to signify enough confidence in me that we can project it in the budget.
Well, they told us
Because
we
we are
were
gonna
gonna
get-
start in September.
We are gonna
It
get a
disappeared.
portion of the charging revenue, but we just, aren't sure when the project is going to continue.
Well, and what about the dog park?
Not for this discussion, I don't know.
Okay.
Mhm.
Let the board worry about that, that's not a budget.
But yeah, that's part of that project too. I don't think that's holding up the charging, I think it's, the federal funding and getting, all the permissions from the Federal Highway Authority. So, provided a roadblock.
I have a question. On line 26, it's got parentheses 20 cents.
What page are you on?
So I'm on page 40.
She's on table.
Okay. Any sense it's what, Chris?
It's something that the
This
county.
is what the
Yeah,
county gives
yeah,
us,
yeah,
so,
yeah.
so we don't do these numbers, so I
I
don't
mean,
know.
it's just interesting that they counted 20 cents.
Every penny.
Every penny counts, that's right.
Oh, you want, believe the forms you have to send in when you do the
They
budget.
do take the-
When you're doing this, you have to LB 20, 40,
Oh, you know.
50. Unbelievable. It's a process. Anyway, any changes to the budget anybody wants to
Two
make?
pages.
I'm wondering, and this is just a stream of consciousness question, I haven't really thought about it very much. But I'm wondering if it would be,
What page are you on?
I'm on 32. I'm wondering if we can, reduce our ending fund balance ever so slightly, maybe. You guys pick a number, 50 grand, 100 grand, and then put that money in contingency. Maybe 50 grand, I don't know what it will.
Yeah.
We don't have to
We've been,
spend it, it'll
we've been in the
continue to
habit
spend.
of putting 50 in there, in past years. We just
And
didn't.
that will reduce your ending fund balance, so,
Only if we use it though.
only if you use it, but on the budget, it will reduce it.
It'll reduce
Yeah.
it, but then
If you don't use it,
you have
it'll
that.
come
vote.
back next year.
Exactly.
Is it a suggestion to put it in line 59, like the general operating contingency?
Yeah,
And where would that disappear from, line 1?
no, it would disappear from line.
Line
63.
It would move up to,
It would move up to line
I
59.
mean,
59.
just the fact that we haven't had it since 2018 in there, we're okay.
Yeah, that makes me question
Well, wait,
if we've been over budgeting or if
Have we
we
had
haven't.
if you, Darren, have you been, you
Have we
talked
been
about we
perfect?
kind of had 50 grand in it, so have we had it?
Yeah, we've always allocated it
It's just not
to
been
line
on paper?
59, and, no, we've never had to tap into our general operating contingency.
But when
But
they,
it's been there as a buffer.
well, when they do the audit, if we don't use the contingency, they just zero that out, right? And the audit all rolls it down into the ending fund balance, so it wouldn't show any contingency number,
Yeah, correct.
because the audit clears it out, unless we used it.
So we had it, we just didn't need it, so it doesn't show up on paper. Right?
That's what I'm guessing, but we didn't have anything in contingency last year,
We didn't.
because it would show up on here if we had.
Yeah, it hasn't been in there for a while.
Well,
Dropped it.
we dropped it, last year. The year prior, if I remember, budgeted 24, 25, I think we did have a $50,000 contingency in there. Now, you see zeros across here because these are the actuals.
They're rolled out from the audit,
We
yeah.
didn't, yeah, we didn't,
Right.
it was never expended, so it just shows as a zero. When that money went back down into your unappropriated ending fund balance, it became we're networking together for the next year.
So Catherine, do you know, do we need to, if there's a change, do we need to vote on that?
A change.
Like I just recommended we add something to contingency, does that need to go to a vote?
I don't think we ever have before, we just make.
Just make that
Staff
change.
to make the
Can you
change.
make a motion with that change in there?
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, that's what we need. So that will give you, an unappropriated ending fund balance of $176,929, with $50,000 in the, general operating contingency.
Yes, and if it's not spent, it'll still come back as 226.
So do you want to finish tonight and make that motion to accept the budget with that change?
I'm happy to make the motion. I think it should come from the budget committee. I mean, the.
Chance to make a motion.
I passed the gavel.
Okay,
Like,
just pass the buck.
You're on deck.
That's right, Chairman. This is like what job I gotta do. Help me to make sure I get it right. I would like to make a motion to approve the Sunset Empire Parks and Recreation District budget for the fiscal year 2026, 2027, with the change of taking $50,000 out of the unappropriated ending balance and moving it to the general operating contingency.
Excellent. You second it?
I'll second.
You didn't get a chance. You tried. Thank you. All right, any more discussion?
I'd just like to say thank you to the staff and, for all the work you did on it. I mean, I know these times are real struggles, and it's about decision-making, and, you know, I'm not fond of having to do tax anticipation notes, but I'm really fond of how you've done everything you could to try to trim the budget down, so thank you.
Yeah, I echo that, too. It's a nice talking. Nice work, Chris. Any other discussion? Sue? Is that a yay or a nay?
Oh, yes. Yay.
Yay.
Oh, we're buddy.
Yay.
Hey, aye, yes?
Aye.
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 Aye, as well. Unanimous. Oh,
Celeste?
perfect. That's unanimous. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Nice, good work.
And only 7:30.
I appreciate the work you're doing to
Honestly, what we did.
work it,
Yeah.
make it work.
Make it work.
Yeah, we should.
How long did
Okay,
it
good.
Right, for such a efficiency on it.
Not direction.
Thanks, Phyllis.
Thank you,
I'm gonna
everybody.
email you some stuff tomorrow, appreciate it.
I think we should start
Thank you for the accommodation.
projecting out when we can get out of the tax anticipation. I mean, they'll be rough numbers,